You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Kevin. Come on in. Hi, my name is Kevin Beer. Kevin Haywood Beer, to be exact. I don't want to discount my grandfather. I'm a designer as well as an artist. I do interiors as well as exteriors. The art is painting, sculpture, assemblage. I work with video, I work with still photographs. I do a lot of things. So this is the house. It's a very small house. If you spin around like this, you're basically going to see the whole house. But we're going to take you to room and show you all that we have done with this house. This house is one of the really early ones in the neighborhood, and they're going fast, unfortunately. It's dated. There's been two papers that I've found in the files, 1922 or 1927. So it's sort of debatable, but it's clearly early 20s, Spanish Colonial, which is one of my favorite styles for California. Okay. You know, when we were renovating the house, what I thought was interesting, and what it was so meant to be, that when they repaired some of the oak floor, there was a stamp underneath one of the pieces, and it was Montreux, Louisiana, which is where my great-great-grandfather was in the hospital during the Civil War, which I thought, okay, this is meant to be, this house has got to be ours. I want to show you some things in the living room. I wanted to show you this Chesterfield couch that my friend Jennifer Blake found on our front porch of an old house. So I had it recovered in some vintage leather, and I've always wanted a Chesterfield, so I was thrilled that she gave it to me. I also want to point out this piece right here. At one point, the studios, Paramount, Fox, whatever, many years ago would clear out their prop departments and they would sell them, and eventually they would trickle down the antique stores. And if you were lucky, you could come across something that might be in a movie of some sort. So I'm pretty sure this is probably from the 50s to make it look like it's Roman, but I'm pretty sure it's a prop. But I couldn't tell you where and what movie. So these Palladium windows, again, are classic Spanish Colonial, and they open, let's see how this one opens. This one opens this way. This is permanent. This one opens out as well, which is great. The piece above the door is a very good friend of mine, David Lackey, who's an antique dealer on the Antiques Roadshow, but he's also an amazing artist. And I love that piece. Greg said, what do you want for your birthday? I was like, I want a dwarf philodendron. Here is a picture of a dwarf philodendron. So what do I get? A non-dwarf philodendron, which is taken over the living room, which I love. So there you go. Here's one of my dome pieces, and here's one of my photographs. And of course the blue Murano lamp, which I love dearly. I got to purchase it before Murano lamps became so expensive, because now I wouldn't be buying Murano lamps. So I want to tell you guys about the chandelier. It's basically it was originally a 1940s clear glass chandelier, which is really, really common. So what I've done over the years is I just keep adding things to it, like the amber crystals and the blue crystals, and then of course the pieces of coral, which is really spray painted orange paint. Let me talk to you about the fireplace. When we bought the house, it was covered in these marble squares that were like Home Depot squares, and it was just really, really bad. And I knew underneath was probably some really great tile. So down below is the bash welder. This is Claycraft, which is a totally different tile, and it's in really bad shape. because again, I pulled all this marble off and I knew it was going to damage it, but I didn't care at this point because I really wanted to get to it. So of course right now it's got smoke soot all over it. I guess I could have cleaned that off for you, but I didn't. So there you go. Because I'm from the South, everybody had hurricane glass because of course the winds. My really good old friend Amy bought these for me at the flea market, and it's very, very rare to find turquoise hurricane lamps, so I was thrilled to get these. Hadrian, Disco Hadrian, he came from an estate sale. An old lady designer that years ago in West Hollywood died, and he's fantastic. I love him. The bar is a piece from my grandparents. I believe it's probably from my grandmother's house or childhood from Louisiana, but it was my dresser when I was a kid in my bedroom. And then this guy is a portrait that I bought on the way to Palm Springs, an antique store. And when we were renovating this house, a ladder fell on it and it really cut it here, and it put a couple of dents and holes, so I covered it with the butterflies and the bugs. This guy here, if you can see him, he is part of a collection which I'll show you more of. I call them, they're my actors or actresses, and it was part of a piece that I did for a gallery years ago, and it was a long parade of creatures, and that's one of them. And then she is one of them here that's in the glass dome. So the shell balance that I have over the doors, there's another one on the other side of the room which is over the window. It's a shell piece. Years ago I used to do shell work, and I did these two, or this one and then the other one's on the other side of the room, and then tables and cabinets and whatever, shelving, whatever I could do. So this piece here, this is my dad's piece, and it was his pride and joy, and he is like, this is pre-Columbian, this is pre-Columbian. I never really had the heart to tell him that it was a reproduction, but so there you go. I love it anyway. I think every place I've ever lived in has always been a collection of things. I will say this, I'm no spring chicken. So as you get older, your collections become more elaborate, and you know, there's just more to them. And also, people die in the family, you start inheriting things, and then suddenly you've got this tiny little house full of all this stuff, and you're like, oh my God, what have I done? Coming from the living room, you go into theoretically what was supposed to be the dining room. Originally, when the house was built, there's sort of a bump up right here. That was actually the wall. And then I believe the second owners, which would be probably 1960, they bumped this out. So this area here used to be the front porch, so now there's no front porch. But you do have this little room. So this is my desk, which is super cleaned off right now because it normally never looks like this, ever. I did it just for you guys. There are on occasions we do sit here and eat dinner, but usually outside. But this particular chair, there's this thing about when I see something in Hollywood, in a movie from Hollywood, or not even any kind of movie, this particular chair, if you, Doris Day, David Niven movie, Please Don't Eat the Daisies, the actress that was in the New York apartment, she had these chairs, not this particular chair, but she had these chairs in the movie, which when I can see something that I see in a movie and I'm like, oh, I remember that chair. And then I was lucky enough to get 4 of these. You guys, I want to show you this corner here. This is pretty common for a house built in the 20s. It's a little mail slot. And so, of course, you know, the mail comes in here and it piles up here, and we keep ignoring it, and we keep it, you know, bills and bills pile up. The arch is very typical of a Spanish Colonial niche. And of course, I painted it blue. And this statue came from my parents' property many years ago. And this sculpture is a Doug Meyer sculpture, which I love. This is my doll head collection. It started It's the very first one was found at the bottom of a forest in Virginia, and I think he's about right there. So from that moment, I started collecting doll heads, and I guess it was about 40 years ago, and then it just sort of proceeded into this collection, and I have a little bit left here of space to fill in, but a lot of it is friends have given me doll heads as well, and I have this thing where I never take the doll head off the body. It's you gotta find the doll head in itself. You guys, let me take you into the guest room. I wanted to point out this wall hanging, which is a resin with a gold plate on it, and I'm pretty sure it came from some movie like Cleopatra or Ben-Hur or one of those, which again, I think it's possibly something from a prop house a long time ago, which I was lucky enough to find at an antique store over in Pasadena. This ukulele is, it was Greg's great uncle, or not great uncle, but Greg's one and only uncle, who died on a ship in Hawaii, giving Hawaiian tours, and he played the ukulele. So this is his ukulele, which is very sentimental to Greg. You guys, let me show you the kitchen. Well, I wanted to keep it sort of in period for a 1920s house. We did the black and white floor, black and white tile. My partner Greg has an obsession over appliances. He and his family, they're like fine art to them, and which is very endearing, I think, but he has started purchasing these turquoise blue, and I love this because, again, our house is small, so the scale of things have got to be in keeping with the house. And so many people have big houses and they can have big appliances. But so this is what we call the Barbie doll toaster, the Barbie doll, another little toaster, and the tiki head cookie jar. These were made when things were made in America. And I bought them in Missouri, I believe, and I've been collecting them over the years, but they're like sculptures to me. And anything from pulling out a boiled egg to whisking to, I'm not quite sure what this did. I guess this is a whisk. They're so cool to me because there's a certain amount of artistry in the making. I'm thinking that there was probably a banquette, there was probably an arch here. They knocked this wall out. I believe it was probably the second owners. They would knock this wall out, and this would be, a banquette is where you have the two side pieces that you sit in, and you have the built-in table. I'm glad they did because it opens up the kitchen. For a small house, it's a pretty nice sized kitchen. This piece right here, when you gave birth to your child and you called the flower shop to send flowers, a flower arrangement would arrive to the new mother. This is, my sister has one, my brother has one, and I have one. This was one, came to the hospital room when I was born with flowers in it. I can't believe I still have it, but I do, so there you go. Oh, and here's Dead Polly, by the way. She watches over me when I make coffee in the morning. Instead of putting an island here, which would have made a lot of sense, we had a beach house, my family had a beach house down in the Gulf, and there was always a table in the middle. And I thought, you know what, I want a table in the middle of the kitchen, like we had at the beach house. Because again, I'm a sentimental fool. It just makes me feel at home. Okay, guys, I want to show you my huge laundry room. I mean, it's so big that we could combine our pantry with our laundry room. So again, I always say it's like living on a boat. You have to have, everything's got to be in its place, and everything has got to be in scale. Should we go outside? Over here, I was over in Silver Lake, which is in East LA, and there was a, God, what'd you call it? Like it was an antique store, but it had architectural pieces and doors and whatnot, and there was stacks of these, and I was like, oh my God, what are these? It turns out that George Hamilton had a tobacco store shop in Beverly Hills at one time, and all across the front of the store he had all the celebrities sign their names in concrete, like the movie theater in Hollywood on Hollywood Boulevard. So I have here is Anne Margaret. It says God bless Anne Margaret. Here's Joanne Worley and Henry Gibson and Gary Owens from Laugh-In. Here's Robert Wagner, and here's a tombstone. Here's Tippi Hedren from the Byrds. So the plan was, when I bought these 18 years ago, we were going to take the concrete up in the patio, and we were going to put these down into the concrete, and then sign our names and things like that. And you see how far we got. We never got to do it. The way it's set up in this particular neighborhood is that you're lucky to have a little courtyard like we are right now. So the thing is that the way the houses are set up is they're so tight. If they run east and west, they're what they're called half lots, which is what this house is. If it runs north and south, it's a full lot, which is right behind us, which has quite a large backyard. This particular wall, and everyone on the street, that's the wall of the neighbor's garage. So that's the boundary line. That's the way it's always been, and it's throughout LA the same way in these older neighborhoods. So anyway, this is the area that we do most of our entertaining, if you want to call it entertaining. But this is the tacos, margarita, you name it, champagne, everybody hanging out here. When I was in college in Santa Barbara, I had one of these chairs exactly, so I was so happy when I found one. Just somewhere along the way I've lost it, and so I got this one, which is very 1950s and super comfortable. This right here is your classic peacock chair, which is in almost every Bette Davis movie. There's a peacock chair. And I will say this, even my ugly mug looks great in a chair like this. You cannot look bad in this chair. Also, I want to say that I'm a long line of gardeners, going back to sharecroppers 200 years ago. It's in my DNA. My parents were amazing gardeners. My brothers, my sister, everybody. So all this, it's important to me. The banana trees, actually, I made the mistake of not finding out if they're the fruiting kind, because you can get the kind that don't fruit. They fruit and they lean, and the fruit is huge, and then it leaks out all this liquid that gets all over the furniture, but I love them anyway, so I just sort of put up with it. These are unfortunately not blooming right now, but these are my pride and joy. These are epiphyliums, and the flowers are this big. And if you ever follow me on Instagram, you will see that I'm incredibly proud of these, because they're constantly in them. They're fuchsia pink, they're bright yellow, they're white, they're pale pink, and they are sort of weird looking and not so good looking until they bloom, and you're like, whoa, they're just amazing. What's really wonderful about having the courtyard is that's really where we do most of our entertaining. We normally don't, I mean, maybe a Thanksgiving dinner, maybe in the dining room, but mostly it's always buffet and everybody sits outside. So most of our entertaining is done in the summer months, in the fall, and the winter, because we live in LA. Should I take you guys into the studio? is where all the magic happens. I do my photographs here, as well as my paintings, as well as my sculptures. Anyway, this is a mini cast of characters up here, not to mention the doll collection. How it ever got started, I'll never know, but not only were the doll heads, there were also the dolls. Now, when my family was out and we called it the barn raising party, where it was 6 adults and 4 teenagers building this. I wanted to sort of plan it out to where I knew that I had a top shelf to store everything, and then I made the garland out of the appendages of the dolls. Again, many of these are done. I used them in some videos and some films. So, and regarding the paintings, I started, I guess during the pandemic, I started painting again, and I had not painted in 20 years probably. I was a fine arts major in college. I have 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Fine Arts and a Master's of Fine Arts. And my father would always say he's an educated idiot. So again, when you're an artist, you're sort of limited to all the things that you can do, work-wise, to make a living, that's what I mean. So anyway, so I had a show, last show I had in the way of paintings was about 20 years ago. The other ones, I think I had the last show was about 4 years ago. So I'm due for another one. So in here is the, I don't know if anybody has ever, on my Instagram account and also, mostly the Instagram account, there's videos. So I do stills of the interior of the dollhouse or videos using the dollhouse. So you have this confusion of scale. Am I looking at a real interior of a real house, or am I looking at a miniature? That's my favorite thing to do, is to fool the eye or at least question the eye. And then my favorite new pink sink I just got, which I have yet to install. Isn't that the best pink sink? I love that pink sink. Shall we go upstairs, kids? Let's go upstairs, yes. Ooh, and it's cool up here too. Where did I see? I think I saw this in Mexico when I was a kid, and every step was a different color. And in my case, I wanted to do it I wanted to do 3 colors. So that's what gave me the idea, seeing it in Mexico. You guys, let me take you to the main bedroom. What's unusual and special for me is that it's a room that I've never had all 4 walls or windows. There is this window here, these 3 windows that face out towards the Hollywood Hills. There's a window over here that faces into my neighbor's roof, and then there's a window over here that faces into the other down the street, and then there's of course the windows behind you, which are the French doors. So it's amazing to me to have a room that has windows all the way around. Greg's closet's downstairs, my closet's here, but it was this, I hate closet doors in a small room, so I just took the closet door off. I just don't, I wish, I don't know, it's the way it is. The dresser here is a really early piece that my friend Randy bought in Louisiana, and his partner really had an issue with it. So Randy was kind enough to let me use it and store it for him until his husband came to and decided it was okay. But the thing is, he never did, so I've had it for years. And I keep saying, I'll buy it from you. No. I think if I don't buy it from him, that means he feels like he can get it back whenever he wants to. But I don't know, it's hard to see the detail of this piece, but it's really a fabulous piece. I think these are not original. These are probably replaced, but I love this dresser, which is not mine. So here is our tiny little bathroom up here, and Victorian bamboo shelf, another piece by me, another piece by me, a medical skull, Greg when he was super young, me in elementary school, more collections. When you have such a tight little weird angle bathroom, it's all about the scale of things. And there's a scar on the floor. This was actually originally, there was a shower here. And the second owners actually took it out for whatever reason. I don't know why. They had a vanity here. We took the vanity out and we were going to put a shower in here. And that was 17 years ago. And we have yet to do it. So we do fine with one shower downstairs. This is like a doll furniture, dollhouse. It's like a child's cabinet, but it's perfect size in here. This marble table came from my grandparents' house. In fact, I think it was in my parents' living room, and now it's in my bathroom. But I don't think they care or would care. I wanted to show you guys this. You know, when you see a portrait, a painted portrait of, a large painted portrait of an aristocrat or whomever it may be, there was always, what they would do before the painting is they would do a charcoal drawing and a sketch, and I wouldn't even call that a sketch, it was highly detailed. Unfortunately, it's so faded at this point, but you can see the chair and the drapery here. It's very, very damaged, but I believe the date was 1833 or something. It's pretty early. So this guy was somebody with some money that would have a portrait done of him, and usually they were quite large. And they would, again, start out with doing a charcoal drawing of it. Even there's a bookshelf here with books. So, you know, when we were looking for the house, we looked in the particular neighborhood where we both met and kind of grew up since we were in our 20s, and so many of our friends lived over here because we're in Hollywood, but West Hollywood is right across the street. If you'll look to see the view this way, you can see part of the Hollywood Hills over there, and they go around all the way around, and unfortunately that house is two-story, kind of blocks your view, but you get a pretty good idea. And then this is what I would call probably more the winter area. In the winter, it never really gets that cold, but the sun goes that direction, so it's hitting this part of the house. So we're pretty much hanging out up here in the winter more so than the other side. Right now, as you can see, as I'm sweating, this is the hot part of the summer here. This is what we originally put this deck in for, is for the movie screen. That this rolls up and down, and then the projector's over here and we watch movies. As a designer, I've always used Hollywood as a reference. From that 10 o'clock movie that we all watched when we were kids to TMC movies, which I love. So my eyes would be peeled to the sets and what they did and how they did it. But again, growing up in Texas, in the Gulf Coast, I was just always outside, and there was always this sort of like nature around me all the time, which I just was drawn to. I still am. This is, we call this the disco grotto, and it's because it's got it's a grotto with a disco ball my neighbor gave me. So we have a fountain going on here, and for some reason, like in September, October, a family of raccoons come. It's only that time of year. The raccoons come and they bathe in here. And I mean, when they bathe, they have like a major party where they just tear everything apart. So once a year, I've got to sort of get it back together. So anyway, that's it. That's the grotto. Halloween The neighbors we sit on the steps and sit over here and drink and pass out candy. That's a great spot for this. Because this is, we're in Hollywood, so you got a lot of people walking down the street in costumes and parties and stuff like that. Regarding the tree with the bottles, it's sort of a southern thing where they would cut the branches of a tree or a dead tree, and then they would fill it with bottles. Many times either they were stuck into the branch or they were hanging, and it goes back to the early period where the voodoo superstition is that you're supposed to capture evil spirits inside the bottle. So now it's just, over the years it's just become sort of a decorative thing and sort of a cultural thing from the South. So that's where I got the blue bottle thing. Because I have so much family furniture, and the lighting, the lamps, and the furniture, and the china, and some of the fabrics, and to me that's home. I can't imagine moving somewhere and buying all new stuff that's not related to any of my history. I need my history around.
Thanks for watching. For more home-worthy content, be sure to like and subscribe.